Hey all, it's Eric here. It's time for another Firmament backer update content video thing. Last time I showed off some of the tools and techniques that we use to build game spaces. The reaction was really positive and it seemed like people wanted more of that. So I thought, let's do some more of that. So what I have done here is I put together a space for us to talk about in greater detail some of the tools and techniques that we use to build game worlds. Um, call it a sandbox, call it a test bed. Um, I built a little scene. It's just a little coastal scene with some rocks and some dirt and some atmosphere and some lighting, and some grass, and it's I wouldn't say that this is verbatim a space from Firmament, but it's certainly representative of the level of fidelity and quality and realism and also stylization that we're aiming for. And I know that sounds really complicated, but I'll go into greater detail in a series of breakout videos that will follow this one. This is really more of a high level overview of sort of the build process for this. This little scene was about 90 minutes of building from start to finish. And I have a quick little time lapse of that I'm just going to show, and I'll talk about it as we play. And then, like I said, there will be some follow-up videos in the coming weeks that will go into greater detail. Some of the things I want to cover are uh, what you're seeing right now is me blocking the scene out in VR. I'm actually wearing a VR headset and I'm physically in the space while I'm building it, which has been an absolute a game changer for me. I've worked it into my everyday workflow, and I no longer want to build worlds any other way. It's so immersive and it solves so many problems while you're in the scene. Here you can see me editing some ground terrain. We'll talk a little bit about tools and techniques there, uh, and ways to get fidelity out of the terrain and make it more believable, especially for the kind of games that Cyan makes, where you're usually in first person walking around right up close to things. Um, I will talk a little bit about sort of an experimental colorization pipeline that I've been working on, specifically with Firmament in mind, that I call the Gradiator toolset, um, which it's giving us the ability to have really expressive, broad, bold, rapid changes to the color palette of an age, of a world, um, which again, I'll talk about it in that video, but I'm really, really excited about the opportunities it represents. Talk a little bit about lighting and atmosphere. This is me moving the sun around and adding some fog, I believe. Talk a little bit about some custom mesh tools that we'll be using. I think we get to that in a second here. Oh, no, I'm just placing more meshes. Again, back in VR, positioning meshes in the space. I think in this case, I'm trying to build sort of a ramp up one side. I thought it would be an interesting traversal. Um, and so this is a mesh deformation tool that I built that allows us to um, kind of take what would otherwise be a rigid mesh and treat it like clay, and sort of bend it to where we need it. And then I believe we're going to talk a little bit more about some new techniques that I'm using for blending meshes and terrain together in a more imperceptible way using sort of, I call them decal meshes or deco meshes, but it's meshes that sort of I guess you could say they're half decal, half mesh, and they make for really, really nice transitions between different surfaces. Here we're looking at editing ground textures in a really non-destructive, flexible way, so we can sort of um, essentially paint in different textures in different areas. I think I'm just manipulating the terrain, and the key here is trying to get the meshes and terrain, which terrain is a mesh, but trying to make it feel all as if it's one surface um, uh, rather than Lego parts snapped together. That's, hiding your seams, hiding your edges is key. Here I'm adding some grass. Here I'm making garish colored grass, again using the same gradiator tools that I'll be talking about in detail. Adding some cloud shadows actually, which adds a whole lot of atmosphere and helps meld the atmosphere in with the scene. And then I think at this point I'm just like looking over to make sure I'm happy with everything. So I'll jump back over to the 3D scene here. And that's kind of a high-level overview of some of the stuff I would like to cover in upcoming videos. And so look forward to that in the coming weeks. And thanks again for all of your support, and we have lots more to show you soon. Thanks so much.